From the New York Times, Meta said to explore incorporating in a different state. The owner of Facebook and Instagram is incorporating in Delaware, but is incorporated in Delaware, but is considering a change. Its corporate headquarters would remain in Silicon Valley, people with knowledge of the matter said. This all stems back to the issue with Tesla. Let's see if they talk about it. Let's see. Meta, the owner of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, is considering changing where it is incorporated from Delaware to another state. Two people with knowledge of the matter said. The company is looking at Texas and a handful of other states, said the people who were not authorized to speak on confidential discussions. The process is at an early stage and no decision has been made, they added. Meta's corporate headquarters would remain in Menlo Park, California. Meta has been going through a corporate overhaul under Mark Zuckerberg. The company's founder and chief executive, Mr. Zuckerberg, has spent the last 2 years making workforce cuts so that the company will operate more quickly and efficiently. More recently, he has aggressively courted President Trump and policymakers in Washington as they set an agenda for issues such as antitrust and artificial intelligence, which will affect the biggest tech firms. So, let's see, do they talk about it? I want to bring up, right here. Last year, Elon Musk's private rocket company, SpaceX, switched to its incorporation to Texas from Delaware. Mr. Musk made the move weeks after a Delaware judge voided his pay package at Tesla, the electric vehicle maker that he leads. That case was brought by Tesla shareholders who were challenging a stock options package that allowed Mr. Musk to acquire 304 million Tesla shares at a preset price if the company achieved certain goals. The judge ruled that Mr. Musk had effectively overseen his own compensation plan, valued at more than $50 billion at the time, with the help of compliant board members. Of course, the New York Times is doing its best to misrepresent what's going on. The goals that Tesla had to achieve. When Musk presented the idea to the shareholders, the goals were ridiculous and no one thought that it was possible. And so Musk was like, I don't want to get paid at all unless we reach these goals. And when they did, everyone that was a shareholder was massively rich, right? Like they made a ton of money. They made a massive gain on their investment. And the only people that were against this are people that are actually against Musk ideologically. So there wasn't a lot of people that brought the suit against Musk. If I understand correctly, it was someone that owned a few shares, maybe a couple hundred shares or something like that. But it wasn't someone that owned, a lot of Tesla stock. And this judge was also a Democrat appointed by, I think, the Obama administration. And essentially, it was an ideological situation, and now Delaware is reaping the benefits of that, which is people are beginning to leave Delaware. If you own a business, historically, Delaware has kind of been the place to go and incorporate. Even I have a few businesses that were incorporated or that are incorporated in Delaware for the band, and now people are leaving because you can't trust the government. One of the things that is absolutely vital for a functioning society is property rights. This kind of misjudgment or this kind of judgment against people that knowingly entered into an agreement with Musk, the shareholders the board was fine with it. But this kind of, we're going to declare that this agreement is void because a judge said so. That's the kind of thing that will destroy an economy. And when you see it right now, that's why companies are leaving. And granted, these companies aren't doing considerable business in Delaware, but no one's going to be going to Delaware to say, hey, we want to go in there and set up our business there. This is the same kind of thing that Mr. Wonderful, Kevin Leary, I think is his name.
Yeah.
He was warning about when it came to the Mar-a-Lago case in New York. If you cannot rely on the government to treat your property fairly and adjudicate disagreements fairly, people will not do business. And this is why socialist countries that don't respect property rights, this is why they get into economic downward spirals. Because if you don't respect people's property rights, if the government just takes your property for no reason, dictators do this too, then nobody that has any kind of money or any kind of value is going to put that money into your country or into your jurisdiction because it's not safe. People don't want to invest in an area if they know that they're likely to lose the investment. You know?
I like that you liken property. You use the word property. It's not just about land and houses and cars. It's
No, not at
about
all.
Money, like your assets, your stock. That's a type of property.
I mean, so like from my perspective, like everything is about property rights. Your body is your property. So your future is your property. The past that you lived, the things that you own are physical manifestation of things that you did in the past. So that's what property comes from. Your future, if someone murders you, they take your property because they take your future. If someone takes you and kidnaps you and throws you in jail, they take your present, which is also your property. If people expropriate things that you have earned and worked for, they're taking your past. These are all manifestations in physical reality of your property. They're manifestations of your life. So that's how, to me, that's how property, that's how I work out property.
I've heard that the places to incorporate are Texas and Nevada. Is that right? Nevada?
I'm not sure.
We're talking highly of it, I think. Definitely Texas. For whatever reason, I haven't looked into the corporate law there. I thought Wyoming looked kind of promising for crypto laws, but that was like 5 years ago. I don't know how that's evolved in the last 5 years. I don't know. I don't have a lot to. I don't have a lot to say about this story except good for Mark. I'm glad that they're waking up, or at least they're taking charge and control and getting out of Delaware. I guess Delaware's so 1980s.
I mean, I just think it's a cautionary tale to anyone that has a left-leaning economic, an emotional affinity to left-leaning economics. There are reasons why things like property rights are vital for functioning societies. And if you don't have secure property rights, you are not going to have a functioning society. You see it in all the people that have moved out of California. Like if you have a business and people go and they steal your stuff and the government doesn't do anything about it, businesses leave because their property rights are not protected by the government. Property rights are the foundation of Western society. People oftentimes don't think about them or give them the credit they deserve. But if your government doesn't secure property rights, your society will fall. Your society will not stand for long. It'll turn into an absolute mess, and that's part of the reason why there are so many basket case countries in all over the world, because dictatorships don't respect property rights. They're like, well, it's my kingdom or it's mine, and so I'm going to take this if I feel like it. And you end up with dictatorships that are just, they have horrible economies. It's not pretty what happens when you have a government that doesn't respect property rights. And it is an innovation. We were talking about the Magna Carta the other night, but that was one of the things in the Magna Carta that the Englishmen demanded the king secure: the right of property, the right to say this is yours and I'm not going to take it just because I'm the king and I want it. Englishmen, that was an innovation, and it was something that made for Western society as we know it.
Yeah, when you were saying the king can take all the property, I thought of Saudi Arabia and how, but then I thought of England and I was like, it's a different kind of king. That is a different kind of monarchy.
The kingdom in Saudi Arabia, they don't, but they could, because they don't, because they know what happens. They know that it'll destroy society, but also there's so much money because of oil in Saudi Arabia. Like it is
apparently the royal family's worth 1.4 trillion. On the books, and that's like 15,000 people, or 1,500 or 15,000. I don't want to get that magnitude wrong.
A lot of princes.
1.4 trillion, and the king's only worth like 3 billion or 6 billion on paper. I think the king can take the money from his family if he really wants to.
If I understand correctly, and I'm not an expert on Saudi Arabia, but if I understand correctly, he does have like ultimate authority in Saudi Arabia. If he says put that man to death, that man gets there. That happens. If I understand, I could be wrong. I don't know a lot about Saudi Arabia, but it's a place where if you cross the wrong person, you're going to have a bad time. You know?
They killed the one thing they had going for them, which was no women driving. But to that point, I do think this story is interesting, much like you're focusing on like the property protection angle. I also think it's just in general, like the rule of law, right? The continued weaponization of the legal system. And I think there's a strong parallel when a lot of people were fed up with what New York, right, was doing to President Trump. And people were kind of like, we're over it. We don't want to be here. It's basically the same thing, which is the perversion, right, of courts, whether it's against President Trump, against various companies. And I think President Trump kind of he stood up to it, right? He represented like, actually, you can push back. You don't have to take it. So it's from the tech bros, who I think are usually a little weak. It's nice to see them standing up, or at least trying to.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.